How's it going, everyone? Quick introduction. My name is Daniel Nascimento. I am an AE student, doing the construction option. I am graduating in 2025. It's currently 2024. Maybe I already graduated in 2025, depending on when you're seeing this. I don't know. I've had opportunities to be in different internships, and while I studied, we didn't have the opportunity of learning Bluebeam. So um, this recorded practicum here is to introduce you guys to Bluebeam and really try to push you guys to learn and utilize it with all the projects that you're doing for the rest of the major, essentially. Because Bluebeam it is really the one application that's used throughout the whole industry. It is the app to look at construction drawings, and you guys would be um, on top of other students in other majors that um, wouldn't know this. So I really wanted to push this forward to give you guys a better opportunity. Getting the internship that you want, getting the job that you want. It's definitely something to know. All right. So before anything, hopefully the professor, and in this case, I do know the professor pushed very hard for you guys to get Bluebeam, so hopefully all of you have it. Before anything, I will show you guys how to do this. So let's say you um, don't have Blue, so you don't want to right click and open as and then Revu every time you open a PDF file. And like I said, you're going to be using this application for pretty much all the PDFs in your major. Even PDFs that are construction drawings can be viewed using Bluebeam. It is so much, I mean, obviously biased, but so much better than Adobe. You won't be able to, there won't be anything that you can't do in Bluebeam that you could do in Adobe. So you might as well make it your PDF viewer, standard PDF viewer. So what you're gonna do is on your search bar on your computer, you can just type choose choose a default app for each type of file. I already searched it up here, so it's popping up pretty quick. So choose a default app for each type of file. When you click on there, oops, different tab here. All you're gonna have to do is scroll down until you see the P's, and you're gonna go down all the way to PDF. And you're gonna change from Adobe to, oh my God, I don't know my alphabet. It's lagging a little bit, so give me a second. There it is. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna go to your PDF, PDX as well if you want, and then just click on it and change from your Adobe Acrobat to your Revu. Whenever you open your files, you're gonna be greeted with a whole lot of blue little files like this instead of the red, and that's how you know that everything is Bluebeam. In which case, you won't have to right-click and open with Revu because everything will just open with Revu standard. Okay, so what you're gonna do is we're gonna grab the you're gonna grab and you're gonna download this file here. This is the file that we're gonna be working with. You're also gonna be watching the video, which I'm recording right now. But you're gonna grab this video. You're gonna download this file, and that's the file that we're gonna be using. So you can open it in Bluebeam. One second. And I'm essentially just going to teach you all the basics of Bluebeam. I'm going to skip over things that are really, really straightforward that you can look over yourself. I'm just trying to show you guys um, the areas that you're going to be using within the app, and just trying to help you understand the whole what you're looking at, essentially all the views, all the AGB essentially. Okay, so obviously when you open your document, you're going to have your main view here with your PDF. On the bottom, we have the control panel here. You can pan, you can have a selection here, in which case you can select text, oh, like this, or let's say if you have anything on your drawing, so let's say I use the tool here and I draw a square, you can use this to select it. And sorry, the tool to select text will be the third one here. You also have a little zoom in function. Really not necessary because what we're going to be doing is using both our hands, one on the mouse, one on the keyboard. And what I advise you to do is we have two options here of viewing, okay? So we have the single page viewing, in which you zoom in and out with the scroll of the wheel. And you will also have the scrolling pages, in which scrolling up and down goes between pages. Now, you might think, okay, so that's when I use this tool. You don't have to, because what you can do is you can hold control. Okay, if you hold control and then use the wheel to go up and down, you zoom in. So as long as you have your hand on the left there, you can scroll up and down between pages, no problem. And then you can use the control to zoom in and out whenever you want. All right, okay. Another functionality that we have here is split pages. Okay, you can split between different ones. Now, one thing that the one setting that I'm gonna have you guys change, and I believe this is the setting that it comes on when you first open Revu. If you go to General Navigation, again, if you click on Revu, Preferences, and then under General, you go under Navigation. There's this box here, which I think is selected. If it isn't, perfect. But you're gonna want to unselect the synchronized views here, because let's see, if we have it clicked, if we have it checked, whatever you do whenever you split views, you're gonna do the same thing to the other document. And I mean, very, very obvious, this doesn't help anybody because you're comparing the same thing with the same thing, right? So you're gonna go to Revu, Preferences, Navigation, and you're gonna uncheck this box so that you can look at two different pages at the same time. Maybe you're looking at here at the reception, and we're looking at a detail, and you want to have the detail on one page and the main page on the other. But let's look at other functions, and then I'll get a little bit into that later. So first of all, let's go over the tabs on the left here. So again, under Revu, you really only need Preferences. Under File, very simple, just like anything else, save close, nothing crazy, export. Under Edit, again, very basic, not gonna go over anything. Lasso is just like a select tool, but you can select only what you lasso. So I'm not gonna really select anything here, but let's say I had a square here or something highlighted, you would only select what you're using the lasso. What is important under Edit is Snapshot, okay? So why Snapshot important? Snapshot, very, you as you might have imagined, it takes a screenshot, right? Why do you want to use Snapshot? When you take a screenshot, and I'm opening the snipping tool here, I'm gonna take a snip of this. Okay. If we take the snip, it is taking, and I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna put it down. Right. Yeah. It's essentially taking a picture of what's on the screen. That's what the computer is doing. It's just not part of Bluebeam, right? So if I put it over here as a white background, and it is a direct picture of that this image at whatever resolution it was. Now, if we go to Edit and we use Snapshot, the difference here is going to be that whenever you take the snapshot and then you paste it in place, first of all, it will be clear, okay? And most importantly, it keeps all of the same information that it had on the drawing. What does that mean? It means that when I zoom into a print screen here, it loses resolution because the picture was taken from this far. But if you get any further, it's just pixels. If you use Snapshot, because it retains all of the information, it doesn't matter how much you zoom in, this is an exact copy of whatever is going on here, right? You zoom in here, keeps all the resolution, same idea, right? So that's what you want to use Snapshot for, okay? Let's move on to View. Very standard things. I will say, give all of these things that I'm just going over, you can check them out yourself. One thing that I'll point out here is you have a side-by-side option, which gives you 2 pages. And then you, just like on the bottom here, you have an option with continuous side-by-side. And this will mostly be useful, let's say you're doing you're looking at a magazine as a PDF, or you're doing a PowerPoint presentation that has two different sides and you have to make it into a PDF, this is a perfect way for you to look at it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the scrolling here. Another thing that is important, and which I already have enabled, but I will disable here, is line weights. Okay, so if we go to view, we have this option called disable line weights. What does this do? So in Revit and in Bluebeam, both have the same option. And what it does is, as you just saw, it makes all the lines have the same thickness. Why do the lines have different thicknesses in the first place? So what we're looking at here from Revit is a detail, okay? So there is the selection, right? This big dashed line that's making this big square here. And it's going over the elevator equipment room, the elevator, and the stairs. And the reason that we have a detail here is because this is such a cramped area that there's not enough room to put measurements and the things that you want to look for. So what are details? In Revit, you can create these details, okay? And in a separate page, you will have a bigger image, or perhaps just a less clustered image of what's within the detail. And then you can have different information displayed, right? So the way it works is the number on the top is the number of the detail. The number at the bottom is the page where this detail is. So this detail for this area is on sheet A-403, and it's detail 1. One because it has a number because there's usually detail sheets where there's multiple details. Now the interesting thing about Bluebeam, and this does work in Adobe, but you can also create it in Bluebeam besides just having it imported from Revit. But the interesting thing here is that we have links, right? So this detail, straight from Revit, when you make this into a sheet from Revit, is already linked. So when I click here, it's going to take us straight into page A403. And then we just look at detail 1, and voila, we have that same area, but now we have much more information than before. Okay, this is a perfect time to teach you about these. What are they called? They are called panels. Yes, these panels on the left. Okay, so besides the main screen that Revit has, right? Sorry, not Revit, Bluebeam. Where you see your document, you have your tab on the top, but you also have the panels on the left, and then you have your markup list on the bottom, okay? And the way to select these are either through getting close and seeing this blue line, which on the panels is essentially useless. You can just click on them and they will open, and if you click again, they'll close. And then the markup list here, you just have to approach until they get to the bottom, and you see this blue come up, and you can just highlight it and click on it. Okay. Same thing with the panels. I'm not going to go over all of them, but let me just quickly get a run through before we go back to the tabs. File access are your most recent items. Thumbnails. Now this is very important because obviously you're going to have all your pages displayed here, and it gives you an easier way of knowing what you're going into before actually having to scroll and find it. Now, something that I'm going to teach you how to do here is very, very useful, especially for construction documents. So every page here has a number, so it's just page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But these sheets actually have already a name and a number to them, a drawing title and a sheet number. So we want to identify these pages by these sheet numbers and drawing types. The way we're going to do that is we're going to click here on page labels, okay? And we're going to use a page region, which we're going to select. And this is what's going to pick the name. So let's see how this works. So page region select, okay? And all the pages, all the sheets are going to have their number in this general box. So what I'm going to do is draw a general box where the sheet number goes, okay, which marks as region 1. And this preview shows what the document is extracting from this area, right? So I made this region, and it's saying, okay, under this region, we have A-001. Perfect. I'm going to put a colon here, a space, okay? And then I'm going to add another region where we're going to have the drawing title. So the drawing title can be in this whole area within this box. So I'm just going to box it all in. And there it is. It takes all that information and puts it in. So we have region 1, our colon space, and then region 2. And I'm going to hit OK. and we're going to apply to all pages because, again, all pages have the same format. And then would you look at that? Now we have A-001, 002, and we can actually see the names of the pages before we actually get to them. Isn't that perfect? And as you may notice here, when you're looking at the sheet itself on the thumbnails, you can see the area that you're looking at under red here. And this slider on the bottom lets you make it as big or as small as you want. So let's say you want it bigger, you can drag this to make it as big as you want. And then this way you actually get to read all the name of all the sheets before. I prefer to have it showing at least 2 sheets like this. Not too big, so I can just not have this occupy too much space and just keep it open at all times. This tool is the same thing for bookmarks. The file that I give you already has bookmarks, so you don't have to do it, but it'll be the same idea. You would just create bookmarks using page region, and in this case, it has the same criteria, so it has the sheet number and the drawing time. We're not going to be using layers. Tool chest, very, very useful. More useful during your internship. Why? Because some companies have their own tool chests. What does that mean? So we have all these standard tools, right? So let's say we have the square tool, rectangle, right? That's obviously a tool that already exists. It's right there. What will your company have? They might have, so you see how you have like architect review, contractor review, engineer review. These are all different tool chests, okay? These are different chests, but your company might have a different chest. So let's say you work for Penn State, then you're gonna have your Penn State chest, and it's gonna have all the Penn State branded tools and all the tools that they need. Why may you use this in our case? This will be helpful for recent tools. Why will recent tools be helpful? For example, here, I just made this rectangle, right? And this is a tool that I can always access really easily through here. But let's say that I want to have a rectangle with different properties. Under this cog is the Properties tab. And under the Properties tab, we can change a bunch of things about this rectangle. For example, let's change our fill color. Let's make it a highlight. And maybe let's change this fill opacity to 40%. Okay, and I would like you guys to just follow along and do exactly as you do here, right? So we have this square here. We just changed its fill color, and this is under the Properties tab. Anything that you're able to click on, if you click on properties, you'll be able to see the properties of the whatever you're selected. But what I was talking about is now that I created this square, obviously, when I come back to the main tool that I have pinned, it will create a regular rectangle, but look at this. Under recent tools, besides the regular rectangle, I have the one that I edited, and I can use this recent tools to come back and make squares just like that first one. All right, so I'm gonna delete these. Just showing you guys why that's useful. I already showed you the Properties tab here. And then besides that, under this whole area, really you're gonna be using the Search tab, okay? And let's do a little exercise with the Search tab to show you the application. So let's all go to sheet A102, okay, first floor plan. And why, besides the obvious reasons that we use the search tool for, this is how, for example, an estimator would use a tool to do a takeoff, okay? So what is a takeoff? A takeoff would be, for example, I am trying to, let's think about lights, okay? I am the general contractor, and I want to know how many lights are in this project so that I can order them and have them brought to my site so they can be installed, right? So I need to know exactly how many. How do I do this? I have the drawings, I have to count them. Very simple. It would take, let's say you're doing a hospital project with 18 floors and each floor is huge. I mean, you will have thousands, literal thousands of lights. That's why you would use the count tool and just be careful, but use the tool to facilitate the count. Let's do that here. So we're not doing lights. These are architectural plans. There's no electrical plans. There are electrical plans, but these are the architectural ones. Let's identify how many times we see this wall, which is an M8 wall, okay? So in the search tool, we're gonna click here, and I'm gonna look up M8, and I'm gonna make sure that I type the M in all caps. We have different. Actually, let me show you what happens if I don't. So if I type it like this, it's still gonna find it, but there are projects that you have things that are highlighted a certain way or another, and you will want to use these options here to narrow your search so that it doesn't catch all these things that are, excuse me, that you're not looking for. For example, case sensitive. If I search for um, lowercase m, this M8 will not show up. Okay, so let's do uppercase M8. All right. So now when we click on the results, and how zoomed in you are on the page will um, uh, it will stay at the same zoom as you go along. So let's say I clicked on M8 here. As we go down, we're going to see all the M8s. And whenever you're doing a takeoff, you would essentially check all of these. But once you go down enough, you're going to realize that you have some M8 point ones. That's when you select whole words only, so that you eliminate, like I was saying, there's going to be some occasions where, okay, you did find an 8, but there's also this extra thing that I don't want. So I'm going to select whole words only. And now we do only have M8s, and you can actually look at all of them here, and there's nothing after them. So now we have all the M8s within this page. That's also another criteria. You can search the whole document. You can search just the page that you're looking at. You can search all open documents or recents. You can do a wide search, but you're usually going to do current document if you're looking for a specific information within the whole document. So let's say you're doing one of our assignments and there's an abbreviation that you need to find, but you don't know where it is. You can do a search, and you can do a search for the current document, and it's going to look at all the pages, and it's going to try to find whatever you search for in all those pages, and then you can use all these options to try to narrow down your search. In this case, let's just search this page. And what we're going to do here is we're going to select all of them. You can do that just by clicking on the box next to the bolt. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark up. We're going to use a count tool. So under this bolt, you can apply a count measurement to the check boxes, okay? So we're going to hover over this, and we're just going to pick any, let's pick the circle here. And it's actually going to put a circle over all of the M8s that are within this drawing. Let's do this. If we click on one M8, it's going to select all of them. And then we're going to go to the Properties tab. And let's do the same thing. Let's set an opacity to 40. And then how is this useful, right? You're thinking, okay, now we have a little visual marker over the M8s, and okay, how do I, this doesn't help me. I still don't know how many there are. This is where the bottom section here comes into play. Okay, so I'm just going to close this Properties tab just by clicking on whatever tool I have open, or by clicking on the edge here. And I'm going to hover over the bottom edge, and it's going to welcome us with the bottom here. Now, yours is probably a little bit more chaotic. What you're going to do is you're going to click on markup list here. You're going to go to columns, and then you're going to be able to select whatever columns you want here. You can pause and you can select the same as mine. But the idea here, what this markups list does is whatever markups are in this drawing, they're all here. Okay. For example, we just did a count measurement, right? And we counted, and it shows the page label here. Very importantly, it shows who did it. So let's say I saved this document and I send it to you guys. If you guys did markups, it would have your sign-in information under author, so we can know exactly who did what. And then, for example, this was a count measurement, so we know that, okay, this count measurement, there's 12. So there's 12 M8 collars here. Not necessarily 12 M8 walls, but there's 12 markers showing that these walls are M8s. Okay. Now, under the columns here, you have so many different criteria. I'm gonna open a different version that I have here, just so you guys can see the amount of markups. And this is really not much, but for example, this was a poly length measurement. I was just measuring the size of the wall, and then you have your, okay, 61 feet. I have things highlighted. Any markup that you make is gonna end up here in the bottom, and you can make it as big as you want, and then you can make it just smaller. But we're gonna leave these markups because these will be part of your grade. So let's leave these in here. That covers about all of the, sorry, I forgot the name, all of the panels on the left here. Let's go back to our tabs, okay? So we looked at view, we looked at disabling line weights. Yes. I will mention one more thing about line weights, right? So the details, right? The details are going to be easily visible because of the line thickness, but there will be many things that are harder to see because of this line thickness. Let's say, for example, I'm gonna go back to A102 here, okay? And on the bottom right of the surface here, you have this very crowded area where you have this very thick line, a thick square here, and essentially all the lines surrounding the walls are going to be thicker, and that's just standard in Revit. But it makes it hard to see some of the details. So we're just going to go to view, and we're going to disable line weights, and you're gonna see such a difference. Now you can see the brackets within this door perfectly, and the way that this looks when you have the line weights enabled, I mean, you can't see anything there, right? So it is your discretion. You can use whatever mode you want. You can switch between them when you need something, which is mostly recommended. But I will say this, if you keep them always disabled, which I do, make sure that you don't forget that there is a detail there that you can use, that you can click on, because you might be looking for some information that you don't see, and you're like, oh my God, I need the measurements for these stairs. I don't know where they are. Well, zoom out a little bit and you might notice that there's a box around it, and then you can actually find it, find and access the detail. Let's go over document, right? So document, very, very standard. You can go over these, rotate pages, delete, crop, very standard stuff. To those of you who don't know what OCR is, in this document, and most newer documents that you get from actual PDF files, or PDF apps that make files, you will have the ability to use this select text tool and copy and paste exactly into the document, right? And into anything, into a Word document or whatever. You're able to copy and you're able to paste. If you come across that doesn't have this functionality, which sometimes you'll have, let's say you have a textbook PDF that is, it's not even, it's only PDF because somebody took a textbook, just put it on a copier, and then send that page to everybody, okay? So now you have this page of this book, but you cannot directly copy from it. Then what you would do is go under document and run OCR. What OCR does is essentially the computer goes over all of the writing and identifies what it actually is as writing, and then it gives you the ability to copy and paste from it, okay? Besides that, flatten and unflatten, probably not going to use it in this class, but I will teach you about it because let's say you're working, so essentially the markups that we have, right? These markups, they are a count measurement. So they're just little circles on top of these. But let's say they have more serious markups, such as a stamp on a drawing that says, hey, approved as noted, or requires revision. Once you use the flatten tool, what that does is it makes this part of the main drawing, right? So right now, we know that this circle was made by me, and we know it as a tool and such, but if you use flatten, it's essentially as if you have this drawing, and then you have this layer on top of it, and this layer is the markups. If you flatten the drawing, you're just smushing it together, and now you just have one drawing, and it just happens to have the circles on top of it. Does that make sense? Sorry, nobody can answer. But unflattening it is still possible unless the document is locked. So sometimes official documents, even documents by the university, might be an official PDF that they sent to you, and you might be able to view it. You might be able to make additions to it, but you will not be able to unflatten it because there are parts to the documents that have been locked, which is something that you can do in Bluebeam as well. Moving on, the batch tab here, not something that I've really used. I did notice that it just has tools from the previous sections, so it might just be an ease of access tab that has things that you might need for batching or whatever that is. Most important here is going to be tools. Let me leave it for last. Let's quickly go over a window here. If you click on presentation and you're plugged into another monitor, presentation will display the sheet that you're on. It will not mirror your screen. You won't be able to zoom in and say like, oh, this is happening in the bathroom here. No, if you click on window and you click presentation, it's gonna give the other screen a full view of the sheet and the sheet only, nothing else. And it's not interactive, and you just hit escape to leave it. Yeah, you can change the panels that you have on the left here. You can hide them. You can have them hide by themselves as if your main tab of the computer just hid, and then when you get closer, it comes back. Don't recommend it. I mean, there's no real need, but you do it if you want. And then the help tab here, it actually has a really useful tool, which is a search tool. I wish this was just to the top of the screen here, but it isn't. But under help, you can find tools. Very useful if you know what you're looking for, but you just can't find it. Okay. All right, let's move on to tools, which will be our last. Everything that you need is here, essentially. Okay. Before anything, I will say this: in toolbars, you're going to be able to pin whatever tools you like, and that's what I have up here. Whenever I was using the square, I'm sorry if the rectangle tool, if you didn't have that and you're confused. This is just because I went under tools and I have the shapes marked. When you add them, they will come in these little packs that you can move around. You can have so many layers of them, and you can have them however you want. Now, I had mine on the top here just so I can move it so you can see, but I do recommend that you put it under your tabs here. And the reason for this is it can be difficult to click on this. Trust me, sometimes it is impossible because this line would be right against the tab of what is this called? The taskbar of the computer. So sometimes it's really difficult. But if you put the extra tools down here, again, they're close to other tools, so it's still intuitive. But then you also have the ease of access to this little line here. And it makes it clean on the top where you just have your tab and then whatever name of the document you have open. Okay, tools. Let's go over them. Markup. Self-explanatory, text box, typewriter, just like a text box, but instead of drawing an actual box, you just click on a place and you type away. And when you hit enter, it goes back under as if it was a typewriter. You can add a note. You can add a call out. Call outs are good. Let me show you. So let's say you have this here. You have an arrow and you have your description. This is a call out. So it's saying, okay, hey guys, this square here, it's a card reader bollard, right? That's what a call out is. Pen, highlight, eraser, standard, any markup app on your iPads or your tablets. Line, arrow, arc, all these very straightforward. Rectangle, ellipse, polygon. Polygon, you can put different marks here. One thing that I will teach you is you can obviously move the tips of the polygons, but one other helpful thing here is when you right click, you can do control point, add control point, or convert to arc. But I will teach you right away, if you hold shift and you click, you can add another control point. And then if you hold control, you can make that into an arc. I am not sure this will come in use for you during this class. It is not something that I use during mentorship, so might as well know it, right? What else we got? By the way, same thing with ellipse, adding control points, no problem. Clouds. Clouds are 100% used in really any company you go to, because let's say there's a masonry cavity wall here, and there's a problem with it, or there's something that you want to talk about, or this is something that's going to be changed on a future set of drawings. You're usually going to see a cloud around it. Okay, it's really just a box, a glorified box that tells you to pay attention to something. You can add images and PDF content. Okay, you can check these by yourself. Just not worth going further into them. Same thing with stamps. Really, we're not going to use it during this class. You're definitely gonna be exposed to it at least during your internships. I think I did mention it before. Flattening drawings. Yes, by flattening drawings, you might have, for example, a submittal or a RFI, and the official response to the submittal or the RFI might have a stamp by the company. Let's say you're a general contractor, you're sending this to a sub contractor. You will have the subcontractor stamp with, and here you will see that some stamps, they have most of them will have zones for you to write your name and signature. This one automatically put the date down. But yes, we're not going to be using stamps here, but you're definitely going to see them in the future. Measure. These are extremely important tools. Over here in A102, let's just stay working in this sheet, okay? So when we were looking at our thumbnails, we clearly see the name of the sheet that we applied, right? But what are we missing? A scale. Now, the scale, it's not something that you're just going to set for every drawing. You essentially just set the scale whenever you need it. And let's make a use for it right now. This sheet, A102, it is a sheet with the first floor plan. It has two details on it. This detail has a 1.5 inch equals a foot. This one has a 3 inch equals a foot. But the main point of the sheet, which is the first floor plan, has a scale of 1/8 to a foot. Okay. You're gonna see here on the right side, scale not set. You can click there, and then you can set the scale to the page. Most of the time, you're just gonna do scale preset, and you're gonna click right here. 1/8 equals a foot. Apply scale, no problem. There will be times that you might not have that information, or you feel like it's not precise. Maybe somebody took a snapshot and put it in a different page and made it bigger, and now your scale doesn't necessarily apply. In that case, what you can do is you can come over here, and instead of preset, you can do custom. And you either will have a measurement that you know equals something, or most of the time you're going to hit calibrate. In which case, you're going to use it to click in a measurement that you know what it is, right? So I clicked from here to here, which is 2.4 blah, 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 blah inches. And we know that that is exactly 19 feet and 8 inches. And that's how you would do a custom scale. I'm going to hit cancel, and you should hit cancel too. We're not really doing that. We know that the scale is 1/8. And if we come here and we come to our measure tool and we hit length, we will see that this is indeed 19/8. Now, the scale does have different precisions, okay? So if you click on the right here, you're also going to be able to see the precision level here. So we have a 1/4 of an inch. We can also reduce it to a 1/2. And now we can see that it's 19 feet, 8 inches. Why am I not doing it the calibrated custom and just relying on the scale, right? The scale 1/8 to a foot will not change these drawings within Revit, meaning if this measurement is 18 feet and 8 inches, and then this one was 19 feet and a 1/25 of an inch, it would still say that. It would be, okay, this is 8 inches, this is 1/25 of an inch. But what this precision level does is just essentially just rounding them up, right? So if I were to measure this as a 25th, and granted these lines will most likely be in the correct place, but they could be slightly skewed. If you have this precision and one measurement is more precise than the other, then you taking this average is really not helpful. All I'm trying to say here is you're most of the time going to want to use the scale that they give rather than trying to do it custom. That's only for when you really don't have that option, okay? So in page In sheet A102, we have our markups. We have our scale set. Perfect. Let's move on to, let's stay on measure here. We got length, poly length, same thing. You length is, I mean, you can always use poly length. There's no reason to use length. Let's say I wanted to know the perimeter of an area. I would be able to just use poly length and keep going. And what it would, and once I hit enter, what it will do is it will tell me the distance between each stroke of the line, but then also the overall distance. So this side here was 44 feet, 3.5 inches, but the whole L measurement that I made here is 117 feet. You don't need to do this, but really poly length, superior to length. You have our area, very basic, for 4 points or more. Mark your area. You have your perimeter measurement, which, like I said, poly length can do that as well. Diameter, center radius, 3-point radius, angle, volume. Now, these here, these last 4 tools here, you already know of count, but these last 4 tools are very different and very interesting to learn, okay? So, I'm gonna create a scenario on the blank here, just so you understand, because there's not, it doesn't necessarily apply to anything big here. Actually, we could do this. Okay, so let's say we want to know the area of the bathrooms, but we don't want to know we don't want this area in the middle. What we could do is we could use tool measure, and then we're gonna do polygon, and we can do a polygon cutout, right? So if we do area, if you hold, by the way, instead of clicking different points, if you hold, you can just draw a square, right? Okay, so we have this area, and I'm going to change it here so it has a slight fill. Very much. There we go. Now we can come here and use tools, measure, polygon cutout, and we can remove this area. And now this is still an area, and it just took that portion out. Now, this may have been a bad example in the sense that this obviously could have been measured in 2 areas, right? Because they're 2 separate squares. But what I'm really trying to show here is the utility of this tool when it comes to scenarios such as you have an atrium with an opening in the middle. Now you're able to create a hole within the area and still get the measurement, okay? This is something that even during my internship, some people didn't, nobody knew about it, and it's really, really useful. So I wanted to present that to you guys, and why don't you go ahead and do it on the bathroom here. Give it a try. But you can, give it a try, but you can just delete it later because we don't need that. But another tool here is going to be the ellipse cutout, which I actually did use. And let's go back there, actually. So let's say we didn't have this cutout. In a project that I worked on, there was an atrium with a big ellipse in the middle. And then same idea. You're really just cutting it off, and you can edit the curvature of the ellipse here, or you can hold shift and create more points here, so you can make it as a funky shape as you need. Just give it a try. We're just learning about this project, about this program. That's really all this is. You will have to submit this sheet. Make sure that you have what I have. That's essentially what's going to be measured as your progress. But just try to explore the program as well. Just really trying to learn as much as we can here. So, last one is the coolest tool. This one I actually learned about this in my latest internship, and I didn't know about it. Dynamic fill. Okay, this is really interesting tool. So you click on dynamic fill, and what you will do is essentially gonna hit create. So let's do there it is. So you're gonna click on these settings here. You're gonna have your boundary, fill size, fill speed. I'm actually gonna make the fill speed faster here just so you guys understand what's going on. And when you have to decide, okay, is this just gonna be a polygon? Is it gonna be an area? what type of measurement do you want? So I'm just gonna make a polygon, but once you hold, and you're gonna click on the paint tool by that. Once you click on the paint tool and you hold it, it will just fill the area, and it will stop at lines, and that's what this boundary size or the edge sensitivity is, to know where to stop. But this tool is so incredible because let's say I want to find out the area of this room, and then boom, just like that, I can do it. Now, I made the fill size really big, boundary size. You can change all of that and make it more sensitive so that it wouldn't pass the edge of the door. And a small square space here is a very simple and not very practical reason to use this tool. But this tool is just so interesting. And let's say you have an L-shaped hallway, and you want to find out this tool. I mean, you just click away and you just let it select everything. It's really interesting. Again, give everything that you want to try. I'm just trying to show you guys so that you know as much as possible. You know, you don't have to master the program, but it's good for you to have a need at a point. If you have a need and you realize, okay, oh, I remember that maybe there's this way of doing it. So that's really all I want you guys to get from this. That's it for measure tools. Sketch to scale. Haven't really used this. Maybe you'll find a use for it, but I'm only going over things that I've been through. I'm a 5th-year student, so if I didn't go through it, doesn't mean it's impossible, but unlikely. Especially because I really like movement. So form. Form is not going to be too useful for this case specifically, but I have used it in the internships as well. So I will introduce you to the scenario, okay? So what would you use forms for? For creating forms. That was a bad introduction. But let's say, for example, you have a document that has, for example, a name, and then you have your colon, and just like underline, right? How do you make that into a form? Actually, I will make that example because that's going to take 2 seconds. Okay. So let's say we have this. Okay. And this happens very often. You have documents like this, and this is more for a professional environment. But let's say you have a document and it has all of these blank spaces to fill, and you want to send it out to people so that they can fill it out, right? If you're making a PDF and you want to impress a company or, you know, just show your knowledge, you want to make it into a form instead of just sending all these blanks, because you don't want people to have to print and have to write it in paper and then scan it again, or have to do, you know, you want to make it as easy for the person receiving the document as you can, right? So if you use forms, what you can do here is you could automatically create form fields, which this is great. It's essentially going to see all the blanks and just make them. I will use the text box tool here just because I really just created one. I don't want it to have to go over everything. But you're essentially going to, let me hit escape. Oh, there it is. Oops, sorry. It is lagging a little bit. But it's essentially going to create a text box here, which when you open a PDF file, so if you send it to somebody else, once they open it, it will be automatically fillable. Now, like I said, it did glitch and move, but this is good because it is a little bit weird to interact with, because this thing, once you create it, now it's a form that you fill, right? So how do you select this thing so you can actually delete it? You can click on the tool again, and once you click on the tool again, now you can actually select it and move it around and change its size and everything. So I'm going to put it here. There we go. I'm going to change size. Sorry, it's being a little iffy. But now we have this as an actual field, and when I click on it, and sorry, this bigger field here is just what I made before. But this light blue field, which is what it's going to look like to whoever receives the PDF, now they can go in and they can write their information. And the cool thing too is that as you write more, it can adapt the size of your text as well. So this will be really useful for you to know. Another part of the form is you can add checkboxes. There's all these different functionalities, but the most important ones really are text box, checkbox, and then digital signature. Just like I created a box here for my name, you can create a box for a signature. And then Bluebeam itself, just like Adobe, you have your actual verifiable signature. And under Bluebeam, it's locked under passcode, and you have to create your signature and your passcode. And it's not like a handwritten signature. It's just a pretty much a Bluebeam stamp. But once you have this box, you can click on it, or a person receiving the PDF can click on it, and then it will say, okay, you want to officially sign this document, blah 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 blah, and then it will be locked. So yeah, that's a really useful tool. Besides form, there it is, signature again, right? And you can certify document or sign a document. And if I were to sign it, it would create an official, see my signature, and you can even write what's going on. Very, very official stuff. And this is what the signature box looks like. The only difference between this is it has a little X on the top there. And same thing, to edit it, you can click like this, and that way you'll be able to click, select, and delete. And by the way, you don't need to have any of these either. I was just showing you. I hope you tried around, but you can just delete it because we don't need it for the document that we're submitting. Okay, finishing up tools. We looked at signature, we looked at everything here. Hyperlink. Okay, hyperlink, very useful. Sounds very obvious, but let me show you something important, which I already mentioned, but when you click on hyperlinks, besides being able to create them, you're actually able to see all the ones that are already in the document. And would you look at this? There are so many hyperlinks, and if you didn't know about where you're able to click, you wouldn't realize how many hyperlinks there are. So be on the watch out for your details. Right? So let me put a document here, view, and disable thick lines. So be on the lookout for all your details, right? All of these details and all of these sections lead to different pages that have more information for you. Be very on the lookout for this while you're doing your 3D modeling project. And yeah, the link tool lets you see it. But if you happen to create a document and or somebody needs you to link something else, this tool, all it really does is you highlight something, and then it's going to say, okay, that's now going to be a link. What do you want it to do? Do you want it to go to a different page? Do you want to show something? And you can change it in here. But I really just wanted to show that when you click on hyperlink, it also lets you see the hyperlinks that are present. Okay. Again, all the tools that you like, definitely make them into a toolbar. You know, I have snapshot here. I have all my lines, all my drawing tools here, and measurements as well. Don't really use too much besides that. I do find myself going into the tool tabs and just actually looking for it. It's good because if you're not familiar with Bluebeam yet, these are all symbols, as opposed to under the tool tabs, you have the actual description of what everything is. It's not that hard to get into either. So your choice, but I believe this was it. I did write a naming convention for your files, so make sure that you save them properly. You know, let's open it. Right. So you're gonna do last name, first name, underscore Bluebeam intro.pdf. So mine would be Nascimento underscore Daniel underscore Bluebeam intro. Just makes it easier for us when grading. But I believe that's it. You know, just quick introduction to Bluebeam. You're gonna be using this nonstop. You're gonna get tired of looking at Steam services. Actually, you won't. Steam services is not bad. But yeah, Bluebeam, better than other PDF viewers, specifically made for construction documents. It will really help you in doing all your projects. You know, it runs much smoother, which is I opened the same document in Adobe just to see it because I was like, oh, let me see what it looks like, and it was just freezing. But yeah, this is going to be really useful for you in your career. Going to help you. It's going to be very beneficial to you that you already know doing your internships. It might even skip you a few introduction videos by watching this one. So that's it. You guys are going to see me for more videos, especially for Revit. So let me stop sharing, and that's it. Hopefully it didn't take too long. See you next time.